could have been the grand wizard. See, let me tell you something. He could have walked in there smelling like the smoke from the cross he just set on fire. If he take care of that baby, that mind your business, because you mind your business when she's taking care of him. When she has a black man in the house that can't get ahead, you don't get in her business. I haven't seen any lives about that.
She realized she got the same black men. She realized that a lot of these black men are the devil. They look, a black man took her, or multiple black men probably took this woman through hell.
What is your take on profiles today, or movements today that are calling to abort black male babies? What is your take on that whole thing?
Honestly, I think that's another form of weaponizing a lot of the direct trauma that a lot of black women are faced with, because I think there is something to be said for black women being able to control their lives and be able to control when they want to give birth or when they want to have families, just for economic reasons or even psychological reasons. I think that conversation does need to be had. But I think the idea and this thing that's happening as far as like aborting black babies and black male babies, I think that's really being driven by a lot of white supremacist groups who are probably using black women as Trojan horses to push this sort of thing. Again, I think that's a separate conversation away from talking about black women's physical health and black women's maternal health, because we already know that, the rates of mortality with black women being able to give birth are skyrocketing, and they're much higher than they are with other women, even Latino women who are even poorer than them, and definitely white women. So I think that conversation needs a separate conversation. The idea of aborting black babies, I think that's just straight up white supremacist rhetoric that a lot of women who are either linked to white supremacist groups, or they may not even be aware that they're repeating a lot of white supremacist rhetoric. I think that's where that's coming from, because if you look at groups like the Aryan Nations, and if you look at groups like the Order and a lot of hardcore white supremacist neo-Nazi groups, one of their main tenets is creating a homeland for white babies to multiply, to create a white power base and a white power base. And another part of that is exterminating black children. So I think that's where that comes from. Even if people don't know that, that's where that rhetoric comes from.
So again, and this goes back to a point that I said earlier, and some of those more aggressive, radical divester or divester adjacent channels. You have Divester who has a picture of the black man being lynched. You have Cynthia who called for abortion. So these channels, you're saying whether or not they're aware or unaware, are very much working in tandem with white supremacy and their ultimate goal, essentially to make sure that these children are not recreated, and so that there are more, I guess, white babies that are being born and that population continues. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure there is a lot of self-hate and a lot of divestors. Matter of fact, I'm almost positive that there is. So you have a lot of people, and probably a lot of them come from places where they did not grow up around other black people, or they might have grown up in predominantly white families, or they might have been adopted, or they might have grown up in all white areas where they didn't have any kind of access to actual black history, and they just heard what the people around them said, and a lot of them are just parroting that stuff. So I think that's part of it as well. You know what I mean? Some of them I think can be helped. Some of them I think need to go ahead and go where they want to go anyway.
What do you think of just the divester movement, right? Divester accounts out there today. Do you believe that they are real black women? Do you believe that they're trolls? Do you think that they are an offspring of what's seen in the academy, abused women? I mean, just what are your thoughts on that whole movement and how it's become, in my opinion, an aggressive attack against black men?
You know what? I've avoided talking about divestors for a long time just because I didn't want to give them more shine than they got. But
fair point.
I think it does need to be addressed. Honestly, I think I really don't think the majority of divestors are really black women. I think a lot of them are bots and trolls. And a lot of them are probably like white supremacist groups that probably came over from Reddit or places like that. They try to or from higher up, and I'll leave that alone. I think the alphabet agencies might be a part of that as well. I can't prove it, but I'm just saying. So I think the vast majority of them are trolls and white supremacists masquerading as black men. Having said that, if you go on social media, you can find evidence of real black women who use their actual names and their actual government names and who work in media and work in academia, who say things just as bad as divesters have said. I mean, there's actual Black women who've said that Black men aren't dying fast enough, like the police aren't killing us. And a lot of that comes from, I think, either miseducation or some of this rhetoric that I've been talking about. And I think a lot of it also comes from the fact that a lot of these people, a lot of the women who are genuinely like that have this idea in their head that if they get away from Black people in general, especially Black men, that that the white Prince Charming is going to come pick them up and save them from their Blackness and save them from being around these horrible Black boogeymen. And I can say this here. If I said it anywhere else, they'd probably get mad. If you take a look at some of the real pictures of some of these people that are hiding behind their images, no man is choosing them for anything, period. Black, white, or otherwise. I'm just keeping it 100. So I'm saying, I mean, yeah, I'll say it. It's the truth. I mean, look, anytime you see somebody on social media, especially Twitter or TikTok, saying hateful things about Black men, if they're hiding behind an image of a celebrity or if they're hiding behind some fake cartoon picture, do a little digging and find their real pictures, and that'll tell you everything you need to know about why they feel like that. They're yelling in the echo chamber.
I addressed that in some of my videos. And listen, I'm never one to comment on a woman's looks. I think that's between her and her. But I will notice that some of the most hate that I've gotten, in particular, different divester adjacent accounts, are hiding behind cartoons. And I started to find that odd because women know today, whether or not we want to admit it out loud or not, we know that today, at the end of the day, your looks is your social currency to a certain extent. How you feel about yourself, how you're presented about yourself says a lot. And women who feel good about themselves aren't hiding behind the cameras. They're just not. If they're on social media building accounts, they are flaunting or they're at least camming up. So no woman who feels good about how she is or feels good about, is comfortable in who she is in her body is going to hide behind a cartoon. That doesn't
exactly.
So that's why I started to notice that. And I was like, I think this is a cover-up. I don't really think that the big issue is that you really even want white men as much. I think there's some other stuff going on here. But in my particular, just from what I've seen, there's a lot of money to be made off of that particular ideology. So maybe that's why I continue in it.
No, that's part of it. But I also want to say, too, it's not necessarily so much even about, although physical beauty is a part of it and that's subjective, a lot of it is about personality as well. Because I want to say this right now. Look, I know girls who are like 300 pounds and they keep dudes because their spirits are nice and they have decent personalities and everything. So you can be, look, I'm based in Atlanta, and Atlanta is a very body conscious, superficial city. Now, having said that, I know girls, like I said, who are big or considered big, and they've been married 10, 12 years or so like that, or they keep having boyfriends and they keep dating. I also know women who look like supermodels who cry in their bed every night and the bed is cold. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff is personality. And a lot of that stuff ties into, I'm saying it's a lot about the energy you give off. You know what I mean? If you give off like a negative, hateful energy, people pick up on it. If you give off a positive energy and you're welcoming, people are going to be appealing, going to find that appealing as well. So that's a part of it too. Yeah, the physical is important, but so is your spirit. And a lot of these people have not done any work on their spirits, or they're dealing with trauma, and the trauma is legitimate, but they don't know how to get access to, help or any kind of resources. And because they're sort of in this echo chamber that nobody pays attention to, they get on there and they say Black men are trash and they hate them, or just say you hate Black women and nobody hates you. Says your personality sucks. Go get help.
No, literally. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's either they don't know how to or they refuse to. Because I think some women just, they need that echo chamber for whatever reason. But I've said this before too, where it's like, especially in the Black culture, Black men are the most body positive. I think I know plenty of Black men where maybe she's not the most in shape or whatever, but she's a great personality. She's nice to get along with. A lot of the Black men out there, I think our culture is known to be more accepting, for better or for worse, of bigger women. And so I don't think it's necessarily size or, that can play a role if you're trying to have like a supermodel or be a billionaire. But if you're a nice woman with a sweet personality, that could get you a long way.
Exactly. And the same is true for men. If men are just mad all the time and for whatever reason, or you're got a negative personality, nobody wants to be around you. A lot of people I guess it's because we live in this culture and everything's surface, but people discount how important personality and your energy is and everything. And you have to be able to hit on all those cylinders, or you're going to be by yourself. And that's nobody's fault but you. And you got to work on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to be offended. If you don't want to see any disturbing content, anything that will ruffle your feathers or make you upset or whatever it may be, this is not the stream for you to watch. I have some receipts for you guys. Much of it is disturbing, however. Now, there's not really any like gore or any, anything like that, but just the content itself is very disturbing. So if that does not interest you, then you might want to pass this one up and join me on another stream. So I just wanted to give that as a quick disclaimer. Again, for those of you guys who are on here, hit that like button, show support to the show. You can also find me on CASHAPP or VENMO. Chez, Chardé, y'all know the drill. What's going on, Celine? So I have a lot to cover off here. Now, I kind of want to give you guys a backdrop. So I had a interview with, Dennis Sperling. Shout out to Dennis Sperling a couple of months ago. And we were talking about the divesters. He had a video that had gotten a lot of playback, a lot of views, where he was basically interviewing a divester. So after that, he brought me on and we had a conversation. And in that conversation, really what he laid out to me so clearly was that divesting at its core is a hate group. It can be defined as a hate group. Now, prior to that, I had been kind of doing my own research. I'd had a few divestors come on and, we'd had conversations, different things, but he essentially broke it down and he was like, this is a hate group. So after that conversation, I continued to do my own research, and it just so happened that I started having people sending me quite a bit of content of different things that were going on, different things that were being said in the divestor camp, if you will, different plots. And to me, it just really affirmed what had been laid out. And the reason I want to have this conversation is because I think what I'm finding is there's a couple of things going on. One, a lot of women in this divestor camp, what they do is they'll kind of throw around these cute terms, these little code words in an effort to try to get younger women, younger innocent women, and younger women who haven't had a ton of experiences, in an effort to get them in and essentially initiate them into their movement. But this movement at its core is extremely hateful. It's extremely detrimental. And although it alleges to be about pro-Black women, they don't even believe in recreating themselves. So first off, how are you so pro-Black female if you don't even believe in recreating dark-skinned Black women with kinky hair and Afrocentric features, or however you put it? So it's like they allege to be pro-Black, but if you really listen to their core ideology, it's very, very, very closely linked to alt-right, and it's very, quite honestly, it's racist, and in some ways it's misogynist, because it isn't even like, white woman isn't like woman. It's just a whole lot of mess. So I wanted to break it down because if nothing else, I want people who are considering going into the divestment movement, who aren't aware of it, who are interested in it, I want them to know at the core what they are getting themselves involved in. It's not some cute little pretty, we're just going to go expand our options. Those are code words. But the core, the essence, the people who are really trying to take the movement to the next stage, they do not like Black men. They do not really like Blackness. They don't even really like themselves. And we're going to get into it today. That's what we're going to talk about. So again, guys, if you're here, hit that like button. Hit that like button, show support to the show. As always, you can find me on CASHAPP or VENMO, Chez, Chardé. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have a lot to go over. I have a lot of receipts. But like I said, let me see where I can get started. Okay. So let me start with this one. Thank you, Ebony. Said, I know you were talking about that investment, but your hair looks really nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to start because, like I said, there's so much to go over. Let me start here. I'm going to share this document. Like I said, I was sent so much information and it was very overwhelming to me. So what I essentially had to do was I I just had to go and try to compile it. So this is just to be clear, this is a very much watered down version, or a very this is just a snippet of all the stuff that I was sent. So there's so much more, but I just want to give you guys a taste of what's really going on. So let me share this right now. Shout out to Dane C with the 2. And let's see. Okay, where'd you go? Okay, there it is. Oops. See if I can add this here. Y'all, this is always a fun part. Bear with me. Okay. All right. So y'all, like I said, I'm coming with receipts. This is just not my own, me just kind of making stuff up. No, I got receipts. So you can listen to the receipts, you can see the receipts, and then from there you can decide whether or not you think what I'm saying is true or false. But I, based on my own understanding, based on my own evidence, have come to the conclusion that yes, this is indeed a hate group. Shout out to Dane C with the 2. With the 2 on the super chat. I see, hey, Shay, this is going to be lit. Shout out to Ron 314 with the 10. So I want to turn your attention. I want to start here. Right here, we have a screenshot. And really what the screenshot is it's exactly what it's titled. It's Black woman being turned on by the police arresting and manhandling Black men. This was a tweet that was sent to me. And I'm just going to play it for you because I think that's going to be the best way for you to actually get a sense as to what's going on. So let me share this tweet real quick and y'all going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Oh, y'all, let's just play it. And then you guys, if you guys have issues with the audio, let me know because sometimes my audio is like has issues. So I'm gonna play it, and if you guys get an echo, let me know, and then I'll try it again. Okay,
I was wondering why no one thought to say and voice their opinion that when we look at when I look at these white men, they are the epitome of masculine, and watching some of these police officers manhandle these Black men in the street is very attractive, and it's a turn on, And I'm wondering, does anybody else feel like that?
Hold on.
Yes, Lord.
Y'all off the chain, okay? Y'all are off the proverbial chain.
That's Discord talk.
I'm telling
you.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I was like, why has nobody said that? Because I'm like, that's masculine. You talk about masculine.
We say that all the time in Discord, Tanisha.
You say that for the back.
Yeah, you have to save that one for the back room when we got the door closed. Yeah,
the hard R for
okay. I'm talking about we say the hard R so hard it sounds like we growling back there around this bitch.
You gotta come back here with us.
Okay, so did y'all hear that? What's going on, Danica? Shout out to Danica. So good to see you. I say just stopping by to show some love. I appreciate the love and support. Love your channel. Love what you're doing over there. Also, shout out to Dane C. I see, Shay, you think their YouTube is bad? Just think about how bad their Patreon and membership and Discord is. That part. Y'all, okay, so just to be clear, did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that well? I want to make sure there wasn't like audio because I want to make sure you guys are hearing everything. So let me know in the comment section if the audio was cool. Shout out to the 18th letter, the $4.99. Okay. I see, in my opinion, women like Christy and Paris Milan, Real Talk with Yanni, and Lexus Exodus are just as responsible. The only difference is they delete content. That's a whole nother topic, y'all. Because that's a whole nother topic. But you guys heard it pretty well. Okay, audio good. Shout out to Barry Hamilton. I see private investigator Chez Chardé going into deep and extremely dark places. These demented hyenas must be exposed. Shout out to Barry Hamilton with the 449. These the women behind these accounts obviously are very, very unwell mentally. I'll leave it at that. Shout out to Timmy Fields. $5 in the super sticker. So y'all heard it. Here, they were basically talking about how, anytime they see a Black man being manhandled from police, it is a turn on to them. It's a turn on. I don't know what to make of that, other than it's just weird. But y'all, this is just one of many, many, many disturbing things that I have heard. So now let's move on to Exhibit 2. Now, I highlighted Divester Zealot and Divested Zealot yesterday in today's post. And the reason I wanted to really hone in on her content is because the thing about Divested Zealot's channel is in my research and what I found, she is the most honest and the most upfront divester that I have seen to date. There's other channels out there who are very much in agreement and in alignment with her, but some of them feel like she's a little bit too on the fringe or she's a little bit too vocal. But it's not that they disagree with anything that she's saying. It's just some of them are just quite frankly afraid of being that vocal. So I wanted to go highlight her content because, like I said, she's the most honest. A lot of these divester channels who are either right next there with her, or some of them who kind of use more cold words, they all essentially agree with, core ideology, but she's the one, from what I found, to just be the most upfront and the most radical, if you will, and the most unashamed. So that's why I wanted to focus on her content, because I think listening to her and seeing the way that she presents information and hearing the arguments gives you a really quick, fast introduction into what divesting is about. Everything after that, all the little cutesy terms that they try to use and the bows they try to tie over it to make it seem palatable, is their way to try to ship it off to the masses, right? To try to basically get younger girls initiated into the movement. But what it is at its core, like I said, is a Black male hating, in certain ways, woman hating, Black hating group that is deeply connected with white supremacist ideology and just other downright demonic beliefs. So let's continue. Shout out to, I think I saw someone else, did I say something else come through? Shout out to Ebony Nelson with the 1999. I see, thank you for doing the work, because I don't want to go on these channels and watch them bash the men that contributed to them being on this planet. That part, literally, it's like, it doesn't make any sense, because it's like, if you are so convinced that Black men are demonic, okay, let's just assume that's true, then what does that say about you? Again, if you are so convinced that Black men are demonic and Black men are evil, okay, what does it say about you? Because the DNA of a Black man actually runs in your veins if you were a Black woman. There is no getting around from that. So it's so interesting to me how there's been this ideology created where somehow Black women can separate themselves from Blackness, from the Black community, from Black men, from the ancestors who created them. Like, that's, to me, that's why it's like, there's something, my humble opinion, like there has to be something mentally unwell, or at the very least just emotionally traumatized, or just like demented, for you to logically sit down and conclude that you as a Black woman have nothing to do with a Black man when he was literally responsible for you existing. Like, make that make sense to me. But let me continue, y'all. So, okay, let me bring up, like I said, I got some receipts here. The next thing I want to turn your attention to is this. I'm only gonna play a few minutes of this because I have more to go over. But there was one. It was a recent recording that Divested Zealot did. Like I said, I wanted to focus on her today. That I thought, again, is a pretty good recap of not only the core ideology, but just the propaganda, y'all, the propaganda that is being spewed as it regards to the Black community. And what I want to say is this: a lot of times what I've noticed as I've listened to some of these different ideas and some of these different messages is that these ladies, they traffic on propaganda, meaning they're not looking at the full picture. All of us can go right now and find a horrible story that a Black man has done to abuse a woman. All of us right now can go and find a horrible story of a white man who was gone and abused a woman. I literally watched a Netflix documentary about this like 2 days ago. This like white guy who was, by all intents and purposes, psychotic and had like kidnapped all these kids, like just a crazy dude. We can all find that. We can find it from an Asian guy. We can find it from, you know, a Mexican guy. It's like, you're going to find bad apples in literally every single community. You're going to find homicide, especially, you know, as you go into lower socioeconomic, you know, areas where a lot of people are struggling financially. You're going to find more crime, whether it's a white rural area or it is a urban all black area. You're going to find more crime. But what happens is, they'll take these scenarios that are already proving their point. They'll take one-off scenarios and then they'll just run with it. They say, "Oh, look, here's a black guy who you know deleted his wife. All black men delete their wives. All black men are dusties." And then they'll take that FBI crime set I've talked about this multiple times, how that whole every 6 hours a black woman is being deleted by a black man. It's complete BS. Because it's like they're literally taking FBI crime arrest. Those are not even convictions. Not to mention, you know, 1/3 of the race of a lot of these homicides are not 1/3 of crimes aren't even arrested. Like, I mean, there's all these unknown variables, and then you're not taking into consider exoneration. So it's like you cannot accurately say that every 5 or every 6 hours a black woman is being deleted by a black man. There's no evidence of that. When you actually look into the numbers, there is no evidence of that. But like I said, they'll take these situations, they'll take these bad, horrible stories, and then they'll just run with it, and then they'll just add in their narrative. But it is not substantiated by data. And that in and of itself is propaganda, right? You take one scenario, usually it's one-sided, you hide all the other evidence, you don't even provide evidence, and then you just fill in the blanks with your own narrative, not based upon any statistical data, not based upon any scientific analysis, not based upon any of that, just based upon your own experience, maybe her experience, or your own biases. And this is what I've seen happen over and over and over again with these channels. And this is why it's so dangerous. Because if you get young, impressionable girls who maybe they're confused, or maybe they have a bad relationship with their dad, or they're mad at him, or they got their heart broken from a young guy, or whatever it may be, you take these young, impressionable girls, and you bring them into these scenarios where these women are bitter, and they're angry, and they're filled with hatred, and it's toxic. And so that's what's going on here. So let me move on to my next point here. Okay. So this is another one. This is just a screenshot from the video that I'm going to be playing from Divested Zealot. And we're just going to listen to a few minutes of the conversation, because I think just all you need is a few minutes to kind of get a sense of what's going on. But I'm going to break it down. Again, guys, if you're on here, hit that like button, show support to the show. You can find me on CASHAPP or VENMO, Chez, Chardé. Also, shout out to Mr. Z with the 5 on the CASHAPP. Mr. Z Black in Effect, I see you here. Also, shout out to Hakeem for the 1250. I see. Sorry for the delay. No worries, Hakeem. It's always good to have you here. Okay, so now I'm gonna play the audio for this particular podcast that she did, or live that she did. And this screenshot, I want to give you guys a backstory. So what happened was, at the beginning of the live, she played a few minutes of essentially, it looked like it was a high school band or something, or like a college, and they were dancing. And in it, you could see presumably different gay black men who were in there dancing with these women. They're doing the exact same moves. They're moving their hips. They're very, very colorful with their body movements and with everything. So she played a couple of minutes of this, and then she went into the conversation. So like I said, I just did a screenshot of the video that she played of presumably this gay black man who was leading this group of black women in a dance. And now we're going to get into the conversation. Guys, let me know again if you have any issues with the audio, as sometimes that can happen. So I'm going to pull it up right now. Okay, bear with me, guys. Hit add. Come on. Okay, guys, bear with me. It's about to hit add. But anyways, guys, all right, we're getting there. Yeah, he said, I see propaganda is the most powerful tool. Absolutely. Propaganda is a powerful tool. And usually what's so good about it is because it's able to build off of the emotions that are already there. So like I said, a lot of these women obviously are coming in with their own negative scenarios. Okay, so this is about to play. Okay. Sorry, you guys, I had to run through an ad. Y'all know how that goes. Okay, let me turn this up. And I'm going to play it, and then you guys let me know if you're running into some audio issues. Because like I said, it's so hit or miss for me sometimes. Okay.
Comment section. LOL, LOL. Finally. She's talking about finally. All right, there's the one. Y'all community are terrible. Terrible. Did you not see all of that ass whining? If your men are not whining ass and trying to be you, right? They're trying to delete you and take your ass off this goddamn planet.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys heard that. Shout out to Dane. I see the super chat. I see similar to Divested Zealot. Check out Archduchess, Crystal Swirls, Divested Witch, and Madame Makara. They're honest like her. Okay. I've heard of Archduchess. I haven't heard of the Divested Witch. So yeah. Like I said, the movement is growing, I guess. I heard about Divested Zealot a while back and just had a chance to look at her content because she's come up a bit in some different content that was sent to me. But anyways, if you guys, so for the audio, if you guys didn't hear it, basically what she said was, these are y'all kings. These are y'all kings. This is what they're trying to do, right? They are either trying to be you or delete you. So let me continue.
I just thought that video was so apropos because that's what your community looks like for real. Who we got in here? We got Nissy in here, Colette in here, KLSB, Merlot. We got all the girls up in this bitch. Y'all, the community is not going to make it. Hello? The community is done. Homeboy came out twisting his ass off, right? And he's in the lead. They led with that. Usually, when people lead with something, it's because it's important and it's praised in that community. Back in the day, there used to be a very beautiful young lady that would come out and dance. But guess what? Honey, no more. Yes, hoochie daddies. Hold on a second, because I need to refresh this goddamn page.
Okay, so a couple of things here. You know, what's so interesting, because this goes back to some very popular, oftentimes repeated ideas as it relates to Black men and why they aren't marrying Black women, supposedly, right? They say, oh, these Black men, either they want to be with white women or they're gay, they're on the down low. So right now she's running with the idea that all Black men, you know, they're gay, they're on the down low. This is who is running y'all community. These gay Black men who want to be you, who are trying to literally dance you, teach you about femininity. This is y'all's community. What's so interesting about this fact is that this overlooks statistical data that is essentially speaking to the fact that Black women, by and large, are leaning when it comes to alternative sexuality. For example, bisexuality. I did a live about this a few weeks ago, and I was talking about how Black women, more than any other demographic, at least in the USA, are embracing bisexuality. Black women, especially, I think it said Gen Z, I think in particular, like younger generations below millennials, they in particular are embracing bisexuality more than any other group. They said 4 times more than any group of men in particular. But first off, women are the ones who are leading when it comes to alternative sexuality, and Black women in particular. So it's so interesting how here the narrative is that Black men are these kangs, these gay kangs are the ones who are leading, and essentially gay men have overrun the Black community. When we actually look at what's happening and what's going on based upon people, you know, scientists and different people who are studying this stuff, they speak to something quite different. They show that women, by and large, are so much more open and so much more ingratiating when it comes to alternative sexuality. And Black women in particular are the most bisexual. Those in younger generations in particular are the most bisexual. So this would be an example of propaganda. You find one scenario, you find just an off-code scenario that you're working backwards from your conclusion already. You find a scenario that kind of reinforces that conclusion, and then you run with it. But there is no thoughtful analysis of it. You're not doing any research to confirm, okay, well, what does this mean? What does this mean individually for this person? What does this mean collectively for a community? None of that exists. You just find something that proves your point, and then you run with it. And then you overlook all of the other obvious data or all of the obvious realities that would fight against what it is that you want to say. That is that clear definition of propaganda. Narrative, one-off situations, no evidence, no stats, no analysis, no deep dive, just fifis, anecdote, and random stories you can find. That is the prime definition, essentially, of how propaganda works. So again, guys, if you're on here, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Show support to the show. You can find me on CASHAPP or VENMO, Chez, Chardé. So let's continue.
Grab the mic, Aaliyah, so I can refresh my shit, because I'm getting ready to go on.
He was strutting his shit, honey. You couldn't tell him nothing. He was I mean, but we know anybody who's from the South, you've seen about other bands. We know that shit is not uncommon for them to be out there shaking it harder than the girls. They've always done shit like that. I mean, I'm not shocked. Anybody else want to jump in here? Because I'm
shocked. I'm sorry. I'm shocked. I've never seen anything like that.
He was moving his body better than a lot of women can. Yo, that's who's leading the community. And did you hear on the other side? I was listening to the people around while I was watching the hips whine. I heard black women back there talking about, you go. Do it, boy. Do it. Why are you so hyped about that shit? Why?
It's shit like that. It's why you got Saucy Santana walking around here talking about gay men need to teach us how to be feminine women. It's that is why they have the balls to say shit like that. Because we hype them up. We make them feel like shit. This is where it's at. They're doing the right thing. So
that is one of the probably only times I agree with anything I've heard from that audio, that yes, there is to a certain extent an alliance, especially with black feminists and different black people from the LGBT community. She's very much in agreement there. And yeah, I mean there's a lot of I think I can know of at least one or two in particular of like gay black men who are essentially like leading femininity channels and who are teaching women how to be feminine. And who is it who's following them? Women. Primarily black women. So it's like, yeah, we do. It's like, yeah, we're the ones who are, promoting or supporting this behavior. So to the point, it's like, okay, can you be mad if those men in that community or whatever, turn around and say, oh, well, we can do this better than you. So like I said, that's maybe the one second of that entire audio where I agree with anything they said. Everything else I completely disagree with. I think it's completely BS. And it's based upon narrative. Okay, let's continue.
Oh, I'm not a part of this. I'm not. I didn't know what that was. I was confused. I assumed men in kilts or masculine than that.
Y'all, black women, if you're looking for protection, provision, resources, you're not going to get it from this community. They can't provide it. There's so many weak motherfuckers in that community that they just opt out of manhood. I had a woman tell me that she knows one, because we got to keep this shit YouTube guideline friendly, that said it was too hard to be a male. So he opted to do this instead. This is what she said on our one-on-one. Y'all, you're not going to get anything from these people. Those of you, I know you divested women that don't, ain't trying to look for no mate or nothing. Y'all chill. But the ones that's kind of looking, but sort of sitting on the fence at the same time, you gonna get fucked up, sis. You are gonna end up with one of these that do this at night while he at home grilling on the goddamn that porch. It's dangerous. Do you know what's up under them tights? What's up under them tights is a whole bunch. Say what now?
I just said a set of balls.
Hopefully that's it. That's up under.
Okay, so y'all, I think you got the memo. You have the memo. It is what it is. I mean, that if you want to learn more, you can go check out the audio on our channel. But as I mentioned, it's just a lot of narrative and it's a lot of fear mongering about these dudes. All these dudes are going to be gay, they're going to be down low, or they're going to be deleting it. Again, little to no evidence to actually support any of these pretty serious claims. Just simply narrative. I think shout out to Ramesses 7. Chardé, you triggers. That's funny. Not to my knowledge. Okay, let's move on. Shout out to Hakeem. I always appreciate your support. I appreciate you for being here. Okay, so guys, let's move on. Y'all got a sense of that one. Let's move on to the next stuff because, like I said, I still got some receipts, believe it or not. Now, this is going to be the last of the DZ that I cover. For those of you out there who basically, for those of you guys out there who are convinced that divesting is not a hate group and that it is strictly about Black women trying to expand their options or trying to do better, which if divesting was really about that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But if those of you who are convinced divesting isn't a hate group, how do you define this? How do you make sense of this? Help me understand. Please help me understand how that is not the definition of a hate group. Do I not see a Black man there being hung? That was something that we know in the history of America happened plenty of times, oftentimes promoted by hate groups, such as the KKK and other really extremist groups. So it's like, how do you literally see a hate crime right here, literally as the profile page of one of y'all leaders, and then have the nerve to tell me this isn't a hate group? And for all of you guys out there who your excuse is, oh, well, the men do it too, miss me with that. If that is your answer, then that means my point is proven. If you don't actually have a direct answer and all you're doing is deflecting, point proven. You're a hate group because you don't have an answer. Because there is no way to actually make sense of that. There is no way. So you can't tell me that this is up and nobody has anything to say about this. Nobody's saying, hey, you need to stop. This is going too far. What does that have to do with Black women expanding their options? What is it Black women being hung or being brutalized? How is that helping Black women find them their Brad, find them their level up, find them their high value white men? How? What is a Black man being violated and hung? And you talk about these dusties. What does that have to do with a Black woman actually doing better? What? Tell me. Because here's the thing about it. If the emphasis really was about Black women expanding their options and landing other men, high value men outside of the community, because let's just let it be clear, it's not like you guys just want average men. You guys want high value white men, high value non-Black men. If that was the case, why wouldn't you actually focus on how to do that? You wouldn't spend every 15 seconds talking about how horrible Black men are. You would actually focus on how to land your high value white men. You would focus on, okay, how do I actually, get in shape? Or how do I present myself in such a way that he's going to like me? What kind of music does he like? What is his humor? Where does he go to hang out? Where can I find one? How can I get into his circle? You maybe try to get to know his mothers and his sisters and his daughters. You would try to get involved in their community. You would focus more on that than every 15 seconds talking about how horrible Blackistan is and how you left Blackistan, but that's all you continue to talk about. I call cap. It's all BS. And that's what I'm saying. If you're being led by avatars who don't even want to cam up and show their face, what are we even talking about? It's a joke. We have become a joke. We are teaching women, leading women how to live their best lives, and we don't even know who's behind those avatars. For all we know, it could not even be women behind those avatars. We don't even know because they don't even want to cam up. They don't even want to get online and say what they have to say for people to talk to them face to face, directly, be held accountable. So to me, it's like, it's all cap, because if you don't even feel comfortable enough to get online and own what you are saying, and then try to lead the way and lead by example, not lead by these little videos, these little images you can post together to just promote propaganda, but no, lead by example based upon your life that you're presenting, then it's all cap. It's just propaganda. It's just a whole feast conversation. Everybody getting around and consoling their upset feelings. But that's not helping anybody. It's really not. And it's really destructive when you're literally promoting violence. And y'all got the nerve to be mad that I'm talking about this. Y'all over here promoting violence, doing stuff like this, behind closed doors, saying stuff like this, and mad that we got the nerve to talk about it. What do you expect? If you're really just going around here actually dating and marrying interracially and living your lives peacefully and not saying nothing, nobody would care. I wouldn't care. The people that I know in my life who actually are interracially dating or marrying and they're happy about it and they're not hating nobody, they're not online creating profiles trying to bash their community. They're happy living their lives, raising their kids, going on vacations, whatever. So it's like, it's just, like I said, it's all cap. It's just all cap. Let's continue, y'all, because I got some more receipts. Again, guys, if you're on here, hit that like button. Hit the like button. Show support to the show. You can find me on CASHAPP or VENMO. CHardé. Let me continue, y'all. The next page. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so as I mentioned to you before, I was sent a whole bunch of receipts. This kind of fell in my lap. I wasn't even looking for it, but this is essentially what helped confirm to me that no, this isn't just a fringe group of women who are just, sharing ideas. This is a group. These are the receipts. These are the different things that were sent to me that helped confirm to me, no, this is evil. This is evil. This is not what it actually says that it is. So let's start here. So a lot of the divestors hate white women. Let's just start there. What to me is so outlandish, because how are you in one instance trying to integrate into a white community, again, among high value white men, or just high value men, period, who are not black? How are you trying to integrate into that community, but then you don't like the women? That doesn't make any sense. How you gonna not like their moms or their sisters or their daughters or their cousins, their community? How you ain't gonna like them? It don't make no sense. But here we see that they don't. So y'all, I'm just gonna read briefly through some of the stuff that they have so you can get a sense of what is actually being said. This was sent to me from somebody who was actually, oops, that's another one. We're gonna get there. Okay, this was sent to me by somebody who was involved in the community, no longer is, but nevertheless, this is what they're saying. This is exactly what they're saying. So if you go far over to the left, you see some very, very, very disturbing comments. Here, a user says, "These white women mad that Brad made mixed race people first. Brad was effing us during slavery, and white women were sick about it. Deleting us, making us wear head wraps. So F them. We're going to take Brad's money. I'm only for black women. They play mistress to our men, so we will play mistress to theirs. Even white men say white women are slurs." If you say 304s. "This is why I'll F Becky's husband." And then it goes on to say, "Let me go F John right now." Like I said, if you guys aren't wanting some, this is a little bit too much for you. This is a little too vulgar. You can definitely sign off, because unfortunately a lot of these comments are just that, they're vulgar. But here you have it. So here's one conversation where basically you have an investor saying, white men don't even like white women. I don't even like white women. And these women is taking our husbands, so we're going to take theirs. I'm going to be their mistress. I'm going to be their mistress, and I'm happy about it, for lack of a better term. That's what's being said. And here's another lovely, lovely lady. Says, "All these white men admiring my skin, I see exactly how the transatlantic slave trade began." Why anybody would ever say that, I don't know. I can't understand why or how this is acceptable, but here we have it. Here we have it. He said, "This is embarrassing." Yes, it is. And we continue down here. Here's a divester talking about, never settle. And you have a Black woman the door being open for her. She's getting into a car. Down there, she says, "Oh, we got nakering." She basically just goes on to talk about, oops, sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, she goes on to basically talk about how, where did it go? Sorry, guys. Okay, she goes on to talk about how she believes that white women and Black men have the same pathology. Literally, it says, been saying forever that white women and Black men have the same pathology, crippling insecurity and perpetual victimhood. She implied herself that seeing white women paired up with Black men would make her feel better, in spite of her fear of the so-called interracial agenda, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just, and here's some more receipts of her basically talking about why, white women are this, but she wants to get with a white man. I mean, you guys kind of have this, sense. But at the core, a lot of these women, they just don't like white women. And it's probably because they see white women as their competition, because they most definitely are. Because if we look at the rates today, white men are still marrying the white women. They still prefer to marry the, white women. I see nothing wrong with that. That's kind of normal. Like, people generally tend to date and marry within their own ethnic group. That's not surprising. But yeah, I mean, for Black women who do really prefer white men, white women are the biggest competition, especially if they're going for the high value ones. And so that's why I don't like them. But like I said, it's weird to me because I'm like, if you actually want to get integrated into the community, you probably should learn from them. You probably should study from the women who grew up around them, who, raised them, who talked to them, went to family gatherings, went to church with them. You should be integrating yourself into those women's lives, learning from them, studying from them if you want to get them in, or if you want to learn how to, attract a man from their community. So it doesn't make any sense to me. That's why to me, I'm just like, this is all cap, because the very ones who could kind of actually help you in this process, you don't want to work with. My thoughts. Let's continue, y'all. This is just, like I said, I got some more receipts. Again, guys, if you're on here, hit that like button. Hit that like button and show support to the show. Find me on CASHAPP or VENMO, Chez, Chardé. Let's continue, y'all. We getting there. So they hate white women. So here, y'all, on code, I see Sandra. Shout out to Sandra. Saw her and they're talking about Sandra Faye on YouTube. She was like, they're not on code at all. They're not, but it's hecka funny that they're talking about being on code. So what do they mean when they say on code? So let's just break it down. A lot of these women recognize that their reputation right now is a bit tarnished. That, you have certain channels that have said things or done things that have essentially been branded them as a hate group. This is why I'm doing this live. And so now there's someone being like, hey, like, we shouldn't be so outlandish. Maybe we shouldn't say slurs. Maybe we shouldn't present ourselves in a certain way, because it's going to it could potentially hinder younger women who want to get involved in the movement. It could hinder them from actually integrating. So they have this whole conversation about, should they be using slurs? Should they not use slurs? Should they insult? Should they not insult? How should they deal with this? Because the end goal is to try to, they definitely want to continue to move this message forward that Black men are dusties and that non-Black men are the best option. They want to continue that message, but they want to make sure that it's done in a way that doesn't seem offensive. So they have this whole conversation about it. So I'm going to read you some of the things that were said. Okay. So here, literally, she says, we just need to stay on code, right? We just need to stay on code. Sorry, I'll keep on in that thing. So we need to stay on code. It says we also should only use slurs when Black men do it first, or it will make us look disrespectful. Here's another comment. Says, I think what we meant here is that when we don't know how to communicate in a more gentle manner, to be respectful and precise in our speech, we are show ourselves in a negative light. We rest in our masculinity. Here, another divester says, I brought up bottom shelf brads at the end of a 2-hour message that were not the center of my focus. Now and then they continue with this conversation of being on code. It says, yes, we need to be more consistent with our message, like the men with podcasts are. And I also think that we should use less slurs because it gives us a bad image and might scare newly divested girls and make them back off. It says we can really convince everyone since what we're telling the people. Now here they mention divested zealot, which is why I wanted to highlight her comment. It says, see, with divested zealot, you can't use her to spread the message the way you could with other content creators. Then they continue to say, yes, but it's better not everything needs to be disrespectful. Keep it cute and classy. And then it says, because from an average Black girl, divested zealot essentially is off-putting. And then someone says, I like Lexus Exodus. So really what you're seeing in there is they're going back and forth and they're saying, listen, we have to start to move a little bit more strategically because we kind of have a better reputation. Like if we just go around throwing slurs around, then we're going to be seen as like, hyper masculine. We're going to be seen as bad. We're going to be seen as a hate group, as evil, whatever. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to scare off younger women. Now, when they talk about divested zealot, notice how they don't ever challenge everything that she says. It's not like they're saying, man, like her profile picture is that, I hate that. Or the way that she talks about the Black community, I hate. Or, the way that she brings this information to me is just it's really dangerous. They don't say that. They don't have anything negative to say about her points. They just think her approach is a little bit too outlandish. So that's why I'm just like, this is why we're having this conversation. Because again, now when I see these little cute terms, I'm just like, just expand your options, yada yada. It's like it's them trying to put flowers and tulips and spade perfume over just some bad, rancid, rotten, corrupted ideology that is quite literally based upon hatred, a whole bunch of different propaganda, and misogyny, misogynoir, misandry, everything in their midst together. That's what it's based upon. And so, like I said, now when you hear these little cute terms, like we can just gonna go level up, expand our options, burn the cape, all these little cute terms that they use, we know what's going on behind closed doors. They're trying to find ways to make themselves more palatable. But in reality, they are very much in agreement with divested zealot. They're very much in agreement with the divested zealot that has a picture of a Black man hanging from a tree who thinks that all Black men are garbage, dusty juice. That's the core ideology. So I want you to understand what's going on here. Shout out to Smain Tagan. It says, appreciate you, Chez, and your hair is amazing. Thank you. Very much appreciated. Again, guys, if you're on here, hit that like button. Hit the like button. You can show support to the show. Find me on CASHAPP or VENMO, Chez, Chardé. So let's continue, y'all. I mean, you would think. So, like I said, this conversation, it continues. They kind of go back and forth. Here somebody says, okay, and if you don't want to insult them directly, just insult them passively. She said, just insult them passively. Let me see if I can find it. I thought that one was kind of funny. That's the next one. Where'd you go? Dang, there's no one here. Where'd it go? Okay, well, anyways, in there, if you guys really want this, I can send it to you. But basically, there was one when they were like, yeah, if you don't want to like insult them heck of aggressively, just kind of be sideways passive about it, like be nasty nice. So they're just, they're talking about different strategies and different ways that they can be disrespectful and they can push their message, but not be so obvious that they're going to be branded as such. Let's continue. Okay, so here's on to another one. They can't even die right. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this one, but again, my main point for those who want to push back and say, oh, well, anytime you point a finger at the hatred that women are promoting among women, and their answer is, oh, well, men are doing it too, SYSBM. Find me somebody with this level of influence, a male, a content creator, somebody in position of power, with this level of influence, who would ever say that Black women can't even die right? Please find me somebody. Find me a male content creator that has a picture of a woman being brutalized, being violated openly in her profile picture. Find me somebody that has influence in the SYSBM or the manosphere space, where she has a picture, they have a picture of a woman being brutalized, and they're still up, and they're still being followed, and they're still being promoted. Find me one. Find me a male content creator that has ever said, abort all Black female babies. Find me one. Please find me one. And you can't. That's the thing. So, of course, I am never one here to say that I'm going to support all of SYSBM, even those who are on the fringe and saying really, really horrible things. No, I'm not saying that. Even in the SYSBM camp, there is division. You have some who are like, yeah, we still love Black women. We just are open to finding Black women outside of the USA. You have some who are just like, I don't want to mess with Black women. I think I want to go to Thailand. You have some who are just like, I mean, there's even within the camp, there's division, but I've yet to see anyone there who's openly promoted violence. Anyone of any following, anyone of any influence, I've yet to see it. And if it has existed, they've probably been shut down, because that stuff it isn't fine when you promote violence against women. But somehow when it's men's fault, and all of a sudden we want to make excuses and say, oh, well, they did it first, so they shouldn't have said that. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff kids do. If men are doing wrong, they have their own stuff to fix, but that doesn't mean that we as women can't fix our own stuff either. What's the old saying? 2 wrongs don't make a right. They don't. So even if men are doing stuff that's crazy, or people in SYSBM are doing things that are crazy, that does not give us the right to promote genocidal behavior, genocidal tactics, genocidal beliefs. It doesn't. And I'm not saying that all men are just right because they're right, or that all Black men are perfect. I've never said that, and I will never say that. And I don't know a Black man who believes that. I don't know anybody in the manosphere that believes that. Even within the manosphere, like I said, you have people literally in the manosphere who are fighting and saying, y'all the Pookies and railways, y'all need to stay over there. Or you present yourself wrong. Or like within the manosphere, there are legitimate beefs, men being like, we need to figure out how to do better. So even men don't even agree that all men are perfect. But it's like, we have to stop using it as an excuse to just do our own evil, devilish things. And then anytime we're called to the carpet, it's just like, oh, well, they did it too. It's like, that doesn't deal with your bad behavior. So let's continue. We're getting somewhere. So this is the Can't Even Die Right. I don't know if you guys heard it, but this is a woman, award-winning journalist, who evidently shed crocodile tears about police brutality. Who knows? But there was this video that went viral. It was I don't know if it was like a TikTok, but it was some video of a man speaking, gay man speaking. And then he was talking about basically Black men. He was like, look, y'all can't even die right. And that part, she tweeted and she's like, y'all can't even die right. LOL, like dying, laughing. You see the amount of likes, you see the amount of giggles, you see the amount of, I'm happy, this is hilarious. I mean, and mind you, this is laughing, and this is making light of the untimely deaths of Black men as it relates to police brutality, different things like that. This is what we're laughing about. And like I said, this isn't just some random account on Twitter that has like 2 followers. This is like an award-winning journalist who was hired to a pretty reputable, a pretty reputable company at the time, promoting this kind of hatred. That's an issue. And then I posted this here because I thought this was so key. This is so key to what's going on. This is Divest Lioness. And here she says, surprisingly, I didn't have much negative experiences with Black men that shaped the type of mentality that I have now. It was really social media. It was really social media that opened my eyes about them. I'm sorry, sis, but I think you're not the one that, I think you're the one that may need some help. So again, Divester Lioness, who has fully integrated herself into this community, is saying that actually it wasn't her life. It wasn't actually things that happened to her that made her divested. It was her getting online, and for lack of a better term, being radicalized, that has now made her be divested. Not real life experiences, not conversations or broken relationships with Black men or any men in her community, nothing like that. Just her going online, hearing about other people's stories, and then being drawn to this movement. This is why I take issue with it. This is one of many reasons I take issue with it. Then here, like I said, I think that's another, that's just another tweet of her saying you can't even die right. Disgusting. So now we're on to the justification. So far, for those of you guys who have getting in here kind of late, all we've gone over so far is the different ways that the divester ideology has shown things that are very much connected with a hate group. We looked over Divested Zealot, who said very, very, very outlandish things as it relates to Black men, all of them propaganda, none of it based upon statistical evidence. We looked at her actual profile picture, which nobody can convince to me, and nobody can argue that this is based upon love or based upon anything upstanding. We literally see a hate crime being committed in her profile page. And y'all got the nerve to tell me that this isn't a hate group. What I can appreciate about Divested Zealot is that she is one of the most honest divestors out there. She doesn't do the whole fringe. She doesn't really, kind of play around or do the whole nuance thing. She's very upright. She's very upfront, and she's very honest about her beliefs regarding divesting. So this is what we've gone over so far. Then we looked over different receipts. Divestors saying that they hate white women and why. Divestors saying that white women are jealous that white men were basically raping them during slavery and creating big mixed babies. And then it talks about Black women saying, hey, we shouldn't be so outlandish with our slurs, because if we are, then we'll start to be considered bad. So just use the slurs behind closed doors, or just, use the N-word or apes and all that stuff behind closed doors. But let's just try to present better so we don't scare people off. So they're trying to basically strategize how they can still promote their hatred, but do it in a nice way. Here we have evidence of them laughing about Black men not even dying right. This is where we're at. Now we're moving on to the next portion, which is justification as to why they should be able to do this. You guys, again, for those of you who are joining, hit the like button. Hit the like button. So, like I said, we got some receipts. So we're getting to the end here. Justification. So here's a divester that says, Black men, they have some weird possessive nature over Black women to the point they'll off Black women for having the audacity to date interracially. So again, here we are with fear-mongering. If a Black woman just decides to date and marry a white man or a non-Black man, then Black men are just going to go delete her. They're going to go unalive her. They're just going to go randomly just decide to execute all Black women who are dating and marrying interracially. Where that's coming from, I have no idea. I have plenty of friends that I know who are in interracial relationships with non-Black men, and they are very much alive and well. But anyways, we continue with the fear-mongering. Then it says, this demographic is so intimidated by Black men marrying white men, their masculinity is threatened. Okay. When they start seeing non-Black men as competition, they can't compete where they don't compare. This is why Black men want Black women not to expand their options. The comparison will expose their incompetence. Y'all, this is cap. This is cap. The issue isn't that Black men are scared that Black women are leaving them. That's not the fear. Let it be clear. Interracial sex and commingling has been happening since this nation was established. So Black men they're not like, behind closed doors, biting the nose, like, I'm so scared that the Black woman is going to, sleep with a white guy or a non-Black guy. It's not fear that's been happening forever. The issue is the narrative that goes along with it. Like I said, if you were just happily going and peacefully dating, marrying out, and not promoting this hatred, nobody would have anything to say. I wouldn't be saying anything. But the issue is all the BS that comes with it. All of the all of the misandry and, quite frankly, the misogyny that's associated with it. That's the issue. The propaganda. That is the issue. And let's just be real. They're acting like this is a competition. Black men, by and large, are more successful at dating and marrying out. They are. So this whole thing, oh, we're going to leave them behind the dust. It's like, well, first of all, people have to actually want to marry us. And unfortunately, Black women, we don't necessarily have the best reputation about being marriageable. That's a whole nother conversation. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, if it was really about giving Black women better options and helping them expand their options or becoming more marriage-minded, I'm all for that. Like, I'm all for Black women becoming more marriage-minded and being, trained or being helped in such a way that they can find men, good quality men, they're going to help them. Like, I'm all for that. But it's not about that, because half the time they're just spent about talking, like throwing slurs around, and there's not any actual practical training, anything that would really empower these women to go and find the men that they say that they want. A lot of it, from what I've seen, is just chatter, talk. These men and this, these men and that. And nobody's talking about, okay, have you lost weight? Because the majority of Black women are overweight. Have you lost weight? Are is your body type even the kind of body type that your average white man or Asian man or Middle Eastern man would find attractive? So let's just be honest. Like a lot of other cultures are not necessarily so body positive or so ingratiating as larger bodies as the Black culture is. So it's like, you gotta start there. A lot of this out the gate, we completely remove ourselves from the whole possibility of dating and marrying out, because we don't even get in the door, because we have no weight issue. So it's like having these real life conversations that could actually improve your likelihood of landing a good partner. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about, well, these men are just intimidated. Like, I call cap. Let's continue, y'all. Okay, so then there's some more receipts. It says, okay. This is just more justification. It talks about why they care. Let me see. Now here she's talking about when she saw Black men getting beat up. So I saw Hotep get his behind beat, thankfully, by a white man, and then she laughs. Exactly. Black women were their shield. Now we are pro-police. When, where, why? Oh, okay. And this is another divester being like, "Ooh, really? Like, you saw a Black man get beat up? Show me where. I want to see it." So weird. Then it says, "I'm pro whatever comes to them. We back the blue and give them access to handle them. I love seeing Black men meet their matches. LOL, they have so much pride in beating up women." God. And then it says there's no way, something about trying to delete them. I can't see that for that thing, but it's something ratchet. Oh, there it is. Oh, then it says, yeah, there's no way that boy wasn't trying to delete him. Then it goes on to say just some other foolishness. Let's see. Then over here it talks about, Black women are finally waking up. Black women are finally waking up. So, I mean, you guys kind of get the sense, this whole conversation. One is saying, listen, Black men are intimidated. They're intimidated by us because we're dating out and we're marrying out. Well, can't really say we're marrying out because the rates are so low, but we're trying to date out. We're trying to get somebody to propose to us. So Black men are intimidated by the fact that we're trying to get proposed to and trying to find marriages with these other men, although we're not doing it successfully. But they're intimidated nonetheless, and that's the issue. And then they kind of go on to say that, Black men, they're so violent. Anytime they see us trying to date and marry out, they're going to beat us up. And then they say, this is why we're so happy when we see Black men being beat up, or this is why we're so happy when we see them being handled by the police. They get what they deserve. And Black women are finally waking up. Okay, and let me just go with this whole Black women are finally waking up nonsense. Like I said, we're acting like this is something new. I've said this before. We're literally acting like this is something new. This whole belief ideology has been going on since the foundation of America. Literally. There are historical accounts of Black women back in the times of slavery and Jim Crow talking about maybe not using the term divesting, but sleeping with KKK members, sleeping with slave owners, sleeping like this is nothing new. There's always been a group of women who are like, I don't want anything to do with you. I want to be with him. It's always existed. You literally have historical accounts of women from Africa who ended up selling their people into slavery as a way to collaborate with European settlers and integrate into their culture. Like, I'm not saying it's a huge amount, but it happened. So this whole, we're just going to leave the Black community and go over here. That's happened. This has been going on for centuries. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're acting like we're doing something new. This is just the same old iteration of old ideas that have been going on for a very, very long time. This is not anything new. But the hatred, it still needs to be checked. It does. Guys, if you're on here, hit that like button. Hit that like button to show support to the show. You can find me on CASHAPP or VENMO, Chez, Chardé. As always, I'll be sure to acknowledge all super chats. Okay, I think we're getting to the end. We're getting to the end. Okay, so this is some of the last of my receipts. Let me just preface this again by saying there are many receipts that I have. This is literally the tip of the iceberg. I was sent so much information that I was quite frankly overwhelmed, and I had to try to piece together some stuff. But I wanted to give you guys a sense of what's really happening behind closed doors, and what's actually really being planned. And to me, I don't see it being anything positive, and I see that it's actually starting to impact young women. And I have a problem with that. And I think at the end of the day, look, if somebody chooses to go this way, they choose to go this way. It is what it is. But if nothing else, I want them to be clear about what they're getting into. I want them to be clear of the motives of those who are leading the movement. And from what I found, it's not anything productive. Okay, this is the last one. Unalive the mules. Or as to put it, delete all Black men, abort all Black men. We've heard it before, but here's some pretty damning receipts of these women literally wishing that these men no longer existed. Here we have, to the left, it says, this is why I say we have to watch how we present ourselves publicly, like not calling them apes, bullet bags, wanting the police to off them faster, make them look crazy. They seem to also be worried about our interracial relationships for us to be shabon. So basically she's saying, look, when we're outdoors, we can't be saying this stuff because it makes us look bad. Then she goes on to say, wait, but don't they have a bullet to shoot this guy by? Don't they have a bullet to shoot by? I'll throw a banana in the street to his so his cops can shoot him for it. So in one instance, she's saying, look, y'all, we got to present ourselves well. And in the next instance, she says, this is further on in the conversation. She basically says, wait, isn't it like a bullet that he can be shot by? I'll throw a banana so he can run into the street and then the cops can shoot him. That's basically what she's saying. Then she says, I feel they're abusive. I mean, all Black men are, but those are the ones who would smack you with a hard iron to submit. Then here's one that says, this is why we have to kill the mules too. Literally, she just flat out. She's like, we just gotta kill him. Let's just get cut down to the chase. This is what we actually got to do. And then I continue here with another conversation. Some more receipt that says, I don't like them all. I'll even sacrifice the ones in my family if all Black men were able to die today without bias. So again, if a user saying, I don't like Black men. I don't even like Black men with family. If I could sacrifice the Black men I knew in my family so that they could be eliminated today, I would do it. Y'all, this is the kind of BS, and this is why I call it demonology, because I think there's no more perfect description of what's going on in that chat, of what's being discussed there. I can't think of a better way to describe this. That's evil. That is evil. And no one can tell me that. No one can tell me otherwise. You can't say, oh, well, men did it too. Y'all already know. If you have to come up with that excuse, you already know this is bad. So here I continue. It says, okay, I don't like them all. I'll even sacrifice the ones in my family if all Black men were able to die today without bias. Here another one says, I support, okay, and this was in response to Terrain Walker. Shout out to Terrain Walker, who's trying to do something positive in the community. He really is. And I think he said support Black men or something in one of his tweets. And she said, I 100% support them to stay away from Black women, to stop degrading, disrespecting, and K-wording us, and for the police to stay on your necks. That's a response to support Black men, is what he said below there. Now down here, some more pretty vicious language. It says, I just want them exterminated and their mules as well. Me being a mule. I think women like me, or just I think women who actually support the Black community and believe in actually recreating Black babies are mules. I just want them exterminated and their mules as well. The feeling of peace waking up one morning and Blackistan no longer exists. So again, wishing for Blackistan and for Black men and for their mules and their mammies to no longer exist. And here we have another pretty clear response that says, I just want them to die. I don't want them alive to see the day they're more divested Black women than mules. So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Y'all can sit here and try to convince yourself that isn't hatred, but this is nobody. You at that point, if you try to tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself. That's pretty damning. They literally just said they just don't die. Should exterminate them. If I could trade in the men in my family so that all Black men could be done away with, I would. Combine that with all the messages where they're talking about hating, not liking white women. Black men need to be put in their place. Them celebrating when police attack or brutalize Black men. The picture of the Black men being hung, and I saw not one divester say anything negative about that. Not one. And y'all mean to tell me that y'all have the nerve to be upset when somebody looks at this group and says, what in the hell is going on? This is not about empowering Black women. Nothing in any of that stuff that I saw was empowerment. Nothing. I didn't see anybody talk about weight. I didn't see anybody talk about Black women's health, the different ways that they can improve their health. I didn't see anyone talk about mental health, which obviously is a big problem in the divestiture movement. Saw nobody talk about that. Didn't see anybody talk about, okay, well, how do you navigate single parent households? How do you raise kids effectively? How do you raise them so they don't end up being statistic? How do you raise? I didn't see any of that. How do you integrate yourself into other communities? How to deal with your finances? None of that. I didn't see any of that. At best, I saw a few people talking about, oh, I think I want to try, should I get Greek food today or should I get Mexican food? I saw conversations about food. I saw conversations about lipstick shades. I saw conversations about outfits. I didn't see anything constructive about, okay, how do we actually do better? Who's going to lead us in this movement? Who's going to help actually raise up women, raise up Black women who can actually be better, be healthier, and choose healthier? None of that. I saw male bashing, misandry, hatred, and oh, by the way, what lipstick shade are you wearing today? And y'all mean to tell me that you're upset when somebody looks at this movement and says, this is evil and toxic? Why? Because you literally have a picture of a Black man being hung and nobody's saying anything. So miss me with the nonsense. Yeah, men have their own stuff to work on. They obviously do. Nobody's ever said otherwise. Like I said, you got men in the manosphere who are beefing over that today. But I've yet to find a male content creator stand up and say, abort all Black female babies. And I've yet to see a male content creator of any influence have a profile picture of a Black woman being brutalized. So all y'all know you're lying. And this is why I'm saying you're being deceived. This stuff is evil, it's demonic, it's nonsense, and you are being fed hatred. And there is no way you can be filled with so much hatred and then think that you're going to be okay. Because wherever you go, there you are. And if you're filled with that amount of trauma, if you're filled with that amount of hatred, if you're filled with that amount of negativity, you don't think that's going to follow you wherever you go? Like, wake up. You're literally being deceived. Men are not the problem. You are in this scenario. You are the common denominator. And this is another thing too. These women telling themselves, they're telling on themselves, if your only belief and your only experience with the Black community is that everybody is violent and they all beat each other up and they're all raping each other, it's like, well, then who are you around? Who are you around? And like I said, this is where it starts to become a conversation of class, it's a conversation of access, because as I mentioned before, usually when you're in environments where there's a lot of socioeconomic challenges, you find more crime there. Whether it is rural areas, whether it is urban Black areas, wherever there is economic oppression, wherever people are struggling financially, you always find more crime there. And so a lot of these women who are going and saying, oh, well, Black men they just abuse, they just rape, they just this, they just that, they just that. It's like what you're telling on yourselves. Because no woman who grew up with a healthy relationship with their father, or grew up loving their brothers, having healthy, positive interactions with Black men in their lives and their communities, is going to say this. One of my closest friends, the other day I was talking to, right? She is married to a Black man, has 2 beautiful Black daughters. She has a very successful career. And she's literally on the phone crying because her father passed away, Black man. And she's like, he was my best friend. He was like, my father was my best friend. He was my emotional support. She's crying. It's a Black girl, Black woman. She loved her father, had a great relationship with her father, which was why it was probably easier for her to find a Black man, and they have a really successful life. But I was talking to her and I was just like, somebody like you, somebody like her, she's not going to be so easily persuaded into all Black men are destinies, because it's like, well, she had that connection with her dad growing up. He was her emotional support. She gets along with him, very well. And when he passed away, it's like, oh, I'm missing my best friend. But so she's not going to get in line and say, oh, all Black men are destiny, because that's not her experience. So I'm saying when these women are saying this, a lot of times it speaks to their experience. A lot of times it speaks to the fact that, yeah, you were in some really messed up stuff, but instead of dealing with that and owning it, now it becomes everyone's issue. And the thing is, like, I don't see other, white women going and saying, oh, all white men are trash. Let me leave Whiteistan. Like, I don't see that. Y'all, let me know if it exists, but like, I don't really see that happening. Of being like, oh, well, I'm not really seeing that, because to me, it's like, usually when that happens, you could understand, okay, this family or this area or my environment is toxic and I need to get away. But that doesn't mean that everybody who resembles that, or doesn't mean everybody who's from that ethnic group is just that. It's just maybe my family's effed up. Maybe they have a lot of issues or trauma they need to deal with. Like, it seems like other communities can come to those conclusions. It seems like other communities can see trauma happen. They can see someone be brutalized or go through incredible rape or incredible, inbreeding or things like that. They can see that happen within their own community and say, that's bad, that's horrible, that's an issue, deal with it. But that's not all of us. But somehow when it comes to the Black community, now everybody's implicated in things that happen in certain areas. And like I said, you don't believe me, this is where you have to really start to look at what's actually going on. And if we also want to believe that going back to this whole every 5-6 hours, this whole idea that like Black women are just some like weak, docile, defenseless, delicate birds that are just being brutally slaughtered by these big old barbaric Black men who are just going to go and beat their chest and overpower them. Y'all see y'all average rank and file Black women. You're dealing with BBWs. You are dealing with some strong, full-figured women who have no issue talking and who a lot of times have no issue starting some mess. So I don't buy this whole stuff that Black women are just frail, delicate, quiet, women who are just all the time overpowered by these big old powerful Black men that are going to go and beat their chest and overpower them. It's like, are you kidding me? You have to first be able to overpower a Black woman. And a lot of y'all know that we're carrying, we're packed. Like, you know what I mean? So like, and again, that's when you got to look at class. You got to look at what's going on. I mentioned this in my previous video, that as Black women get into better environments, they get more education, as their income increases, all these different things, the rate of homicide literally drops. And when you control for class, it is consistent across all ethnic groups. That's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of these stuff, it's just thrown around. It's just narrative, but there's really no data to back it up. And what it is at the end of the day is a lot of broken, mentally unwell women who, instead of actually dealing with their stuff, are finding ways to spew their toxicity to other young girls. And it's a problem. And I'm thinking, if you wake up every single day and this is what's inside of your heart, that's sad, because that is no way to live. That is no way to live. And it's about time we call it for what it is and say, y'all, this is a hate group. And my hope is that, I hope women start to wake up and be like, okay, I need to really rethink what's going on and deal with your stuff. Yeah, trauma does happen. Yeah, there are absolutely really, really sick Black men in the community who don't need to be dealt with. Absolutely. And yes, there's also sick Black women, and also, yes, there's sick men of other communities. That's what I'm saying. If you don't deal with your stuff, it's not like it just goes away. It manifests itself in different arenas. Shout out to Eugene Steele. Okay, I see. It is amazing that these genetically modified females base their generalizations of Black men on their frustrations, on their experience, rejections, bad relationships, etc. So they run away. That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. So you guys, that's, that was a lot. I know that was a lot, but I wanted to get through everything. Oops. I think I just saw. Shout out to Game Dreamer 58. I just saw some love on the CASHAPP. I appreciate it. I appreciate it for the donation. Also, shout out to Darren with the 10. Thank you, Darren. I saw you sent in a 5 earlier, so I appreciate you. I really do. So, y'all, I have a few minutes if any of you guys want to call in and weigh in. I know some of you guys have probably been waiting. Some of you guys have been eager. So I have a few minutes to chat. If any of you guys want to leave your thoughts, leave your perspective. Let me say this too. I don't remember if I meant to add this caveat at the beginning, but I will say this, that just because somebody, like I said, just because somebody's in an interracial relationship, to me does not mean that they are that they are a divester, right? Or that they are in alignment with something that would promote hatred. No. I don't look at somebody who's dating interracially, man or woman, and say, oh, divester, you are that. I don't do that. So that's, to me, that's not always the indication. But there are clear things and there are clear behaviors that usually point to the fact when somebody is, quite frankly, involved or dabbling in this hate group. And if nothing else, I hope people now walk away with the understanding that don't be fooled. At its core, this is what divesting means. That if you don't want to be involved in a hate group, or if you don't want to be led by women who obviously have a lot of undealt with trauma and pain, then you might want to reconsider other options. Also, if you're being led by nameless, faceless avatars who are supposedly teaching you about femininity or supposedly teaching you how to level up and aren't giving you any practical ways to do it, good luck. Because how do you know what they're telling you is real? How do you know?